Naples is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's home to pizza, world-class art, and over 4 million people. But what it isn't known for is surviving apocalyptic disasters. And that might be changing soon because under the city lies one of the world's largest supervolcanoes. For the past 3,000 years, it's sat dormant, sleeping beneath the Italian capital. But now scientists think they can see signs of life again. If this volcano erupts, it could obliterate not just Naples, but the entire Italian peninsula. So let's get into it. The Campi Flegrei caldera is located just outside Naples in Italy. At about 13 kilometers wide and 30 kilometers long, it's so large that archaeologists have nicknamed it the Phlegrean Fields. This supervolcano has been responsible for some of the largest eruptions in human history. And geologists are worried it may do it again. Now let's rewind to 12,800 years ago, when humans were making cave paintings and woolly mammoths roamed the earth. Back then, there was a volcano in this area which began to erupt. The blast was so violent that it wiped out all plant and animal life within 60 miles. And in total, it ejected between 500 and 700 cubic kilometers of material during its eruption. To put that into perspective, if Mount Vesuvius, which you may know from the destruction of Pompeii, had an eruption of that size, the entire city of Naples would be buried in ash. And that's exactly what happened here. Ash fell as far away as modern-day Greece and the Black Sea. It also left behind a lake of molten magma and hot volcanic gases, which eventually formed a caldera, or a large crater. This is the caldera we see today, but it doesn't look like much. In fact, it looks pretty normal. You can even go boating on it. Now, of course, I wouldn't recommend that, but people do it anyway. This is because the crater is filled with water. So, how does a supervolcano become a lake? Well, rain and meltwater seeped into the caldera over time, and combined with geothermal activity heated by the magma chamber below to form a lake. This lake is called Lake Avernus. Its name comes from the Roman myth of Avernus, the god of the underworld. And if you ask me, it's a pretty fitting name because the Greeks believed that this lake was actually a gateway to hell. That's because it's so big and deep. It didn't help that it was surrounded by swamps and emitted poisonous gases. But don't worry, because these days it's much more pleasant. People go boating on it and fish for freshwater eels, carp, and catfish. But underneath this beautiful blue surface lies a bubbling cauldron of molten rock and evil spirits. Okay, maybe not the second one, but definitely the first. There's a reason that ancient civilizations built their cities near volcanoes. It's because volcanoes are a source of geothermal energy, which means we can farm crops year-round and use geothermal power to generate electricity. And it's that geothermal energy which creates a constant threat at the Phlegrean Fields. You see, although it's been 3,000 years since the last eruption, the magma chamber beneath the caldera never fully cooled. And if you're thinking, how can a magma chamber cool when it's literally beneath a lake? Well, good question. It's true that it hasn't cooled, but it hasn't grown either. The magma has solidified into a glassy igneous rock called obsidian, but this means that pressure is building up. And scientists are starting to notice some worrying signs. First off, the ground is rumbling with earthquakes. They've recorded more than 1,000 earthquakes in the region in the past 60 years, and the tremors are getting stronger and more frequent. Second, GPS measurements show that the caldera is bulging outwards. All that pressure from the magma chamber is pushing up the land around it. Finally, scientists are noticing a slight tilt in the Campanile di San Martino Tower in Naples. Now, don't get me wrong, none of these are definite signs that the supervolcano is going to blow, but they are warning signs that something is happening down there, and things are about to get worse. Scientists believe that if the magma makes its way to the surface, it could cause an eruption twice the size of Mount St. Helens in 1980. And that's not the only reason why scientists are concerned. You see, the population of Naples has grown rapidly in recent years. It now has about 4 million residents. Plus, there are other smaller cities surrounding the caldera too. If this thing erupts, it won't just destroy itself, but everything around it. Now, fortunately, it's very unlikely that the magma will reach the surface anytime soon. That's because it has to travel through a 5-kilometer layer of solid rock. But scientists aren't sure how long that will take, and they don't know whether anything could speed it up, like an earthquake, for example. In the event of an eruption, the most dangerous part would be the pyroclastic flow. This is where superheated gas and ash shoot out of the volcano at up to 700 kilometers per hour. Anything in their path would be incinerated. These pyroclastic flows would travel for dozens of miles and bury the entire city of Naples under ash, and this is a place where buildings are already crumbling. Take this apartment complex, for example. When it was built in the 1950s, the builders thought it would last about 20 years. And after 20 years, engineers reported serious structural damage. Now it's only held together with steel rods. This is because of the soil. The land in this region is weak and crumbly because it's made up of volcanic ash from previous eruptions. And ash isn't exactly the best foundation for a house. This means that even without an eruption, thousands of people could die each year from building collapses. And that's why researchers are taking this supervolcano so seriously. One scientist compared the situation to living on top of a time bomb. We don't know how long it will take to explode, but when it does, it'll be catastrophic. Okay, so let's say the worst happens and this volcano erupts. What happens next? Well, that depends on the severity of the eruption. If it's a small one, it'll probably be confined to the caldera. Volcanic ash will blanket the surrounding areas and some buildings will collapse in Naples. But if it's severe enough to destroy the entire city, then it's game over for the whole of southern Italy. Pyroclastic flows will rip through the peninsula and destroy everything in their path. Most of the country is built on weak volcanic soil, like the foundations in Naples. Entire cities will be wiped off the map. The Italian government knows this. They've been preparing evacuation plans for decades. Every resident in Naples knows the plan. When the sirens go off, they need to grab a suitcase and leave immediately. They'll travel south towards the toe of Italy. Now, if you live in Naples, you're probably wondering, that sounds like a great plan, but what if I'm driving my car? Well, luckily the Italian government thought of that too. On major roads, there are special refuges every 500 meters. Here, drivers can pull over, stay safe from falling debris, and wait for the coast to be clear. Trains will also stop and passengers will evacuate onto these same refuges. But what if this volcano erupts while you're visiting Naples for a pizza? Then you'll have to follow the yellow evacuation routes marked on the pavement. Luckily, scientists can give us a lot of warning. It'll be obvious from the bulging of the caldera, the earthquakes, and the tilting of the Campanile di San Martino tower. So rest assured, you'll have time to escape. Just make sure you don't get trapped in your apartment block. So in conclusion, Naples is probably safe, but it's not impossible that the supervolcano could erupt and destroy the entire city. And even if it doesn't, thousands of people still die each year due to building collapses. So watch your step, because the ground beneath your feet may not be as solid as you think. Thanks for watching.